Hey everybody, it's me, Andrew. Get out into nature and tune in for yourself. Resonate with the Earth's electromagnetic field via 432 hertz, the universal frequency. Balance out psychologically and emotionally, and further strengthen your brain and your heart's coherence as well. Get a plant-based diet going for yourself today and nurture yourself right back into life. We are literally herbivores in our nature. Further balance out your physical body's pH level and get with alkalinity. Then you can generate some static electricity. Send me some love telepathically. Set attention to your mind and set intention to communicate. That is all there is to telepathy. You are now tuning in to great days. So, good morning for one. It's like 6:45, okay? The sun hasn't even arose yet, but it's about to blossom, all right, from the horizon, and I'm pretty much waiting. But I wanted to actually talk about extrasensory perception or extrasensory abilities as well, and go a little bit over what extrasensory perception is, and some of the methods to actually come into extrasensory perception. So today's video is actually going to be all about this. So let's get right into it. Today's video is extrasensory perception. Now, let's get right into it. So, the reason I wanted to film this video is because whilst I was on this 5-day fast that I just broke yesterday evening, um, what I noticed is that my ability to perceive extrasensory was greatly heightened, okay? And it kind of just inspired me to actually talk a little bit on extrasensory perception. So now I'm going to pretty much go over what it is, okay? It doesn't come strictly from fasting. It's just one method to actually come into extrasensory perception. But what extrasensory perception is, it's extrasensory. So we know that we have 5 physical senses, right? We have the smell, we have the sight, we have feeling, we have taste, and we have hearing. Okay, these are 5 physical senses. But there's one more that we do know of as well. There's the 6th sense, and this is usually called the mental sense. Okay, and what the mental sense is, it's pretty much a mental envisionment. It's your third eye. It's opening up your mind. Okay, and the 6th sense is usually related to phenomena like being able to see ghosts, and being able to read minds, or being able to telepathically communicate, or being able to do all this type of phenomena, right? Clairvoyance, telling the future. All these abilities come with the 6th sense, with the mental sense. Now, what extrasensory perception is it's literally extra sense, okay? So if you take the word extra sensory, it breaks down into extra sensory, okay? Because what it is, it's extra senses. It's going beyond 5 physical senses in totality. You're not limited to the physical 5 senses, physical experience, but you're adding extra senses to your experience, and this comes with opening up the third eye, or the mind. Okay, mental envisionment, strengthening that up, and that's what invites in extrasensory perception. Extrasensory perception, it will change your perception, for one, because it's like, okay, if you exist within the five physical senses, then you're gonna be living in a physical experience. But if you go beyond five physical senses, the five original senses that we know of, and you come into extrasensory perception, then your perception itself changes, because you're going beyond the five physical senses. From physical experience or physical perception, you're becoming more perceptive, okay, of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is also visible light, and visible light is consciousness, okay. So the electromagnetic spectrum is pretty much what we're able to experience, right? And with the five physical senses as is, we are only able to experience or perceive less than 1% of that electromagnetic spectrum, or less than 1% of visible light, because they're one and the same. Okay, so through the five physical senses, we can only perceive less than 1% of all that there is to be perceived. But when we go beyond the five physical senses and become extrasensory in our perception, then we're able to open up how much we're able to perceive of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, from 1% that comes with the five physical senses, physical experience, to more of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, and that 1%, that less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum is physical experience. But if you go beyond physical experience into a higher dimensional understanding or extrasensory perception, then that less than 1% of our experience, physical experience, it opens up to more of the electromagnetic spectrum, and we are able to experience more. That's why they say, if you are using your sixth sense, if you are extrasensory in your perception, you are going to be able to see things like ghosts, you're going to be able to see apparatus, you're going to be able to telepathically communicate, you're going to be able to use telekinesis, you're going to be able to do these types of phenomena, you're going to be able to have these abilities, because you're opening up more of the electromagnetic spectrum. You're opening up more to what there truly is there, but we cannot perceive those dimensions of the electromagnetic spectrum in physical experience or through the five physical senses. We need to go beyond the five physical senses, and we need to come into extrasensory perception. Remember, the word means extra senses, extrasensory. You're adding more senses to your experience. Not just the five physical senses, you're adding extra senses. You're adding the sixth, which is the mental sense, the opened third eye, the mind, okay, mental envisionment, and all of its capabilities. And even beyond that, you know, there comes even more senses whenever you start to open up your mind. And this is what extrasensory perception truly is. It's not truly just the sixth sense. The sixth sense can be qualified as a extrasensory perception, but there's even more senses than just the sixth sense, you know. We have literally so many senses. You just have to explore them for yourself. And that's how you open up more experience. That's how you change your actual experience for yourself. And you start witnessing a lot more to life, you know, things that seem to never even exist prior to coming into extrasensory perception, you know. So it'll really change your perception whenever you're able to open up extrasensory perception. Now I'm going to actually give a little bit of methods to how to obtain extrasensory perception for yourself. So I started off with explaining that the fast that I had just taken, 120 hours or 5 days without food, this most definitely brought me into an extrasensory perception, okay? Which I already knew it was going to do, because literally just going a day without food, usually, which I do twice a month, um, it brings me into extrasensory perception already. So it puts me beyond the five physical senses, which are very limiting. Okay, once again, we only perceive less than 1% of experience, or the electromagnetic spectrum, within the five physical senses. Okay, so within physical experience, we're only able to perceive less than 1% of what there is to be experienced in totality. Okay, but whenever you start fasting, you go beyond the physical senses, okay, because you're not physical anymore. You're becoming lighter, you're ascending, okay, and your intelligence boosts, and you start to become more extrasensory, and the amount of experience that you're able to pretty much go through, or the intensity of experience pretty much rises along with it, and you're able to come into higher dimensions, or more of the electromagnetic spectrum, more experience. Okay, so fasting is most definitely one method to be able to perceive extrasensory. Okay, and then obviously, whenever you come to be able to perceive extrasensory, it comes with all sorts of different abilities, okay? Because all of these abilities we already have. And that's the truth. It's just so that you're not conscious of them. You cannot see them. They seem intangible, or they seem non-existent, or they seem invisible, because you cannot perceive more than 1% within the physical senses. But when you go beyond the 1% by becoming extrasensory, opening up the sixth sense at the very least, then you're able to see, okay, there's more to life, a lot more to life, that we aren't able to all the time see. And then whenever you do that, more abilities come to you as well, and that's one method, fasting. And fasting has a lot more benefits as well, not just becoming extrasensory in your perception, but it comes with a lot more benefits. So most definitely take up fasting, at least intermittent fasting, which is about 8 hours to 16. Okay, that's not long at all. You can literally, some people sleep that long, so not fast at all. And you can actually sleep, and it will be considered a fast as well. So you can have like food, let's say at 4 p.m., and then have breakfast at, like, let's say 9 a.m. the next day. That would be an intermittent fast. And in that way, if you do that prolongedly, or if you do that extensively, then you're going to be able to start opening up more senses for yourself, extrasensory perception. Now you can fast, you can meditate. One thing I have learned about meditation, being meditating for about a year and a half now, or a little longer, is that it has most definitely opened up my sixth sense profoundly. Okay, actually within the first few months of meditating, my sixth sense was already being able to open up more. Okay, so meditation is one of the most simplest and most profound and practical ways of opening up and coming into extrasensory perception. Okay, I want to say yoga as well. Yoga is most definitely, it's just like meditation, but it's a little bit more, I want to say it's a little bit more profound when coming into extrasensory perception. So you can take up yoga for yourself as well, and then you can start generating more perception to life. It completely changes your experience. um, Now, I want to also say that psychedelics, I know that a lot of people aren't willing to always use substances, and that's totally fine. And I'm not here to promote the use of psychedelics at all, okay? But I'm just talking about my personal experiences and what I know to be practical, or methods for generating a sixth sense or extrasensory perception. Okay, so psychedelics has most definitely been one of those methods. Every time I've taken psychedelics, I've been able to open up myself into a connection with cosmic source, for one, and I've been able to open up my mind very, very profoundly with the use of psychedelics. Okay, LSD most definitely has this impact or this effect. Most definitely psilocybin mushrooms as well, or magic mushrooms, have most definitely done this to me, in fact. And I want to say DMT as well has most definitely done that to me. um, and then obviously other substances like MDMA as well, and and some of the more simpler ones like marijuana, it can do this to you as well. Opens up your extrasensory abilities. Okay, it opens up your perception to life. Okay, and when people say that they're tripping, it's like you'll go into these various different spatial dimensions, right? And then people will just kind of call this tripping. They'll say, dude, I'm tripping. I'm seeing things that aren't there, well, you're not actually tripping. That's just the slang that people use for being within these higher perceptions, because they just created a slang for it. But what it really is that your mind is opened up, your intelligence is boosted, your brain regions are communicating in different ways that they have not previously communicated prior to taking the psychedelic in the first place. So you have a completely different understanding of life, and this complete different understanding of life, or this opening of the mind or the sixth sense, it allows you to start perceiving things which aren't there, you know, when you're living within the five physical senses. So people will oftentimes put this off by telling themselves, I'm tripping. It's nothing really. It's just a hallucination or something. But that's not the truth. The truth is that it's a sixth sense. It's something that does exist. It's just non-existent to the five physical sensory perception, because it's extrasensory. It's not something that everybody always is within. So and I learned that actually through meditation, because you come into the to a like perception. When you start to meditate, you start to go through these types of experiences, like if you were on a psychedelic. So what I learned, or what I have learned, or what I have realized, is that when you say that you're tripping because you're like hallucinating extremely or something, it's because your extrasensory perception has been opened up. Okay, and people just put this off by telling themselves you're just tripping. Okay, um, but that's the truth of it, and that's another method. You can take psychedelics, but take that slow. If you do decide to go with that method, make sure to take precaution and educate yourself beforehand, because that is most definitely needed when taking any type of substance in itself. Okay, now that's about 4 methods. I also want to say artistic expression, or making music, or just like painting, or anything that is very, very artistically expressive, is another way to open up the sixth sense. Okay, because whenever you start to do this, you start to allow your energies to flow more, and whenever your energies start to flow a little bit more profoundly or fluently, it opens up your extrasensory perception as well. Okay, because you're getting in tune, or you're getting in connection with divine source when you come to divinely express yourself, or when you come to artistically express yourself. Okay, and that opens up the sixth sense, or the extrasensory perception, as well. So artistic expression is most definitely another method. And then I want to say that grounding yourself to the earth, or just getting out into nature and spending more time in nature, is another way to open up your extrasensory perception as well. Because our extrasensory perception is a very, very natural thing. You know, it's not something that we developed later on. You know, it's something that we have always had as peoples. It's just so that we have been unable to access it as profoundly or as strongly as we were once able to access it, you know, on the daily. And this entrapped us in the five physical senses purely, and this entrapped us in physical experience. But we were always able to use our sixth senses, our sixth sense, or even more sense. We are always extrasensory in our perception, and we always had the supernatural abilities that come with the extrasensory perception. It's just so that we have been entrapped within the physical or the five physical senses only, and and whenever you start to get out into nature, when you start to connect with Mother Earth, when you start to connect with the universe and aligning yourself geometrically with the universe, it opens up for a natural flow of energy once again, and it puts you back in your nature. This is why she's called nature, because she's the most natural thing there is, you know. And whenever you avoid nature, when you avoid being out in nature, you know, when you avoid living by nature or in harmony with nature, you're going to become limited somewhere. You're going to be imbalanced somewhere because you're living out of your nature. Okay, but when you start to live in harmony with the natural world, with nature, then you are able to balance yourself back out. You're able to bring in that fluent flow of energy throughout your body. You're able to come into harmony with the universe, and this naturally allows you to open up your extrasensory perceptions once again. Okay, so that would be the last method. There's obviously more methods, but that's where I'm going to stop. Obviously, some people are just born with natural extrasensory perception, but it can always be cultivated. It can always be developed during your life. So don't worry if you're somebody who does not have extrasensory perception, you know, because it can always be developed very, very easily if you just put a little bit of effort into it. Okay, being more aware, which is pretty much meditation. Just be more aware of everything you can all the time, you know, and that's another method to opening up your extrasensory perception or your sixth sense and higher senses. Okay, but yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about extrasensory perception. I just wanted to explain what it really is. I just wanted to go over some methods, and I just wanted to pretty much gift the information, gift the knowledge. So I do thank everybody for watching once again. I hope you did enjoy the video today. I hope I was a help to you. I hope I did bring some insight to you, some mental envisionment, you know, insight. Okay, get out into nature. Most definitely ground yourself. It's the most beautifully potent feeling. Okay, yeah, that's it for me. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Make sure to drop a like on the video if you did enjoy and I did help you. Drop a comment down sharing some love, peace, positivity, inspiration, motivation, and constructive criticism. Comment down whatever you want to comment down. All right, I'll get to you. Okay, but have a great morning, everybody. Peace out and one love.